All right, good afternoon, commissioners. As the Corporate Legislative Officer, I am pleased to call this inaugural meeting of the Sewage Commission to order for 2021. I will be conducting the election of the chair and vice chair for the Sewage Commission today. And I do have a script in front of me that I can read through, although I think most of you have probably heard it a few times. And so if you would prefer, I can read through that script on process. Otherwise, I could simply open the floor to nominations for chair and vice chair of the Sewage Commission for 2021. Does anybody have any questions, first of all, on the process or the elections? Seeing no questions from those online or those in the audience here, I will go ahead and open the floor to nominations for the position of chair of the Sewage Commission. Director Cole-Hamilton.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'd like to, not Chair, thank you. I'd like to nominate Director Hillian, but I'm not sure I see him here.
Director Hillian is actually, sorry, I should have mentioned, we have Director Minions and Director Hillian both in the civic room today. And then online we have Directors Cole-Hamilton, Director Grant, Director Swift, Director Morin, and Major Stevens from CFB Comox. So I recognize Director Cole-Hamilton, you've nominated Director Hillian as chair. Do I have any further nominations for the position of chair? Seeing no further nominations, Director Hillian, do you allow your name to stand for the position of chair?
Yes, I do.
Great, then, thanks. I'm pleased to announce you as the chair of the Sewage Commission for 2021.
Thanks very much.
And I'll open the floor now to nominations for the position of vice chair for the Sewage Commission.
Well, I'll jump at once.
Director Morin, I see your hands up.
I'd like to nominate Director Swift, please.
Great, I'll call a second time for any nominations for vice chair. And a third and final time for any other nominations for position of vice chair. So seeing no further nominations, Director Swift, do you allow your name to stand for the position of vice chair?
Yes, I will.
Great, thank you very much. Then I'm pleased to announce you as vice chair of the Sewage Commission for 2021.
I'm out. They said you couldn't get out, I'm out.
And I will now turn the floor over to Chair Hillian. Probably easiest, yeah, if you take over the spot.
Okay. Thanks very much. I will just say that I appreciate that there's a lot of work in this role, and but I will try not to become drained. I'm actually flushed with pride at taking on the role, and I look forward to working with all of you. So I believe the first order of business is our recognition of the traditional territories, and I'm very pleased to acknowledge that we meet on the traditional unceded territory of the Comox First Nation. And I honor all the people who have lived here for thousands of years, and I honor all of you and the journeys you've made to be with us here today. We do have a delegation, and I'll invite Eduardo Uranga to present his information now, please.
Okay. Is this my time now?
This is your time, yes. You have 10 minutes.
Well, the reason I requested actually a longer time because it's going to be impossible to overcome all the objections that I'm going to have on this in 10 minutes. So there was supposed to be a vote on extending my time to 30 minutes.
We do require a 2/3 vote of the board to extend the time. And I don't know if anybody's prepared to make that motion right now. I will note that we only do have half an hour for the entire meeting, so.
Okay, well, the first thing and I'm going to say is that all the information that I don't have time to present right now will be conveyed on a written form, so everybody would be able to read what I have to say in regards of this. I'm going to start saying that what we have today is a sewer plant in Comox that dumps the semi-treated sewer water in the Georgia Strait at the expense of the shellfish industry and the health of the ocean that surrounds us. Such plant needs to be not expanded to keep using the same 40-year-old technology at great expense for that upgrade. The regional district of Comox Strathcona made a mistake 4 years ago. Why do we want to perpetuate a wrong decision and waste the opportunity to act on something that we have the power to change for the better? I was part of the group of Comox Valley residents in 1982 that opposed that project, especially the construction of the conveyance pipeline, knowing the devastating effect that it was going to have in the premature erosion of the bluffs, the Willamette Bluffs, among other problems. We were not heard, and now we can see the evidence of the huge mistake that was made by the regional district then, and the lack of accountability, even after the adverse report from the Ombudsman to the BC Legislative Assembly in 1997. This will not happen again, that's for sure. I would like to give an idea of my credentials because of the intellectual discrimination that may happen if I don't. I have a chemical engineering degree, computer science. I'm a data scientist, a data miner. I'm an irrigation specialist, conservation and renewable energy specialist, and I have a root master's degree in shed disturbing, which is probably the most important aspect of my credentials. I've been working on—
Could you just repeat the master's degree? I don't think we heard that.
I said I have a root master's degree in shed disturbing. We used to present our views in many issues in the Valley together, and I do have a commitment to their legacy to do what I'm doing. I am here to oppose the decision made by the Sewer Commission based on CVRD staff recommendation and the advice of a consultant whose obviously primary interest is to sell a pipeline, not to consider the construction of a new wastewater treatment plant as a viable option to the conveyance pipe. Such pipeline is an economic aberration that will have a massive impact on the Comox Valley's environmental issues for many years to come. The effects are unpredictable, but the residents of the Comox Valley will demand accountability from the people that made such decision. I request the opportunity to present a proposal to solve the problem with the construction with a 25,000 cubic meter a day state-of-the-art wastewater facility, tertiary treatment facility, that will have the capacity to treat the wastewater of the projected 66,000 residents of the regional district service area until the year 2060, for which a builder, a site, and a discharge point has been determined and quotations have been obtained. The point that I'm trying to make is the most strong is the environmental impact of the conveyance pipeline. The embedded carbon and the embedded energy of the conveyance pipe are huge. The horrifying carbon footprint of the building this pipeline was not mentioned, let alone considered in the environmental impact reported by the consultant, WSP. I wonder if anybody in the commission ever heard a report from the consultants about this. How many metric tons of CO2 will be produced? How many kilowatt hours of electricity will be invested in a trenchless pipeline? No answer to these questions were provided by the CVRD staff, and the consultant is obviously not interested in pointing out how bad for the environment the proposal is. Something comes to my mind that I learned many years ago is that shit runs downhill. Sounds familiar. Well, that's a principle that everybody in the world base their sewer treatment facilities on. It's always downhill. pumping water, that was sewer water, 48.1 meters uphill, is an awful bad step in the wrong direction. Another thing that I want to bring up is if it's not broken, don't fix it. The assessment of the current conveyance pipe is that it is in good condition. Why is it going to fail? No evidence is there that it will actually fail in the near future. One thing that we need to consider is the concept of sustainability, because meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs is very important. And we claim that we are part of that movement. The needs of the Comox Valley residents in 20 or 30 years will be certainly very different to ours today. What makes us think that we can decide what will be good for them using a 60-year-old technology? Magnetic flocculation, oxidation ditch, a good example of available processes that replace the ones used at the Comox plant. Resource recovery will be a mandate in the very near future due to water scarcity. It's not being considered seriously in this project. We are an agriculture community. Why take nitrogen and phosphorus out of the wastewater when it could be used as is? No takers? That's what I heard. Well, you should ask again, because everybody in the agriculture will benefit from having more water for irrigation, because the most expensive water is the water that we don't have as farmers in California. The new wastewater treatment plant was an option that was rejected under the false premise that it would be too expensive to build and to maintain. Where is that premise coming from? A consultant for which the CBRD has not provided evidence to prove that the information in the consultant's report is accurate. WSP, the consultant, is an infrastructure company that builds pipelines and has only one wastewater treatment plant in their portfolio. The only one instance they have is a treatment plant for the town of Ladysmith that was built in 2017. After talking to the people at the town of Ladysmith in regards to the plant, there is no evidence that WSP is the author of that. The only documentation that was provided was from Opus, the other engineering firm that is well known in the Comox Valley. So it's just assumed that that claim of being the construction company for that plant is dubious. I made an attempt to verify this with a consultant, but they refused to communicate with me to provide such evidence. It is important to see where the number that was provided by Chris LaRose, that the plant will cost 3 times as much as the pipeline that they're proposing. And the only evidence that was given to us, because the plant in Ladysmith that will serve 17,200 residents costs only $18 million. So for the purpose of treating the facility here for the expected 66,000 residents in the year 2060, which is rather amusing to see that we can actually predict what's going to happen in 2060, is $173 million for the whole thing. For the actual treatment plant would be $105 million. But that number was never documented. Grace LaRose indicated that the plant will cost 3 times as much as the conveyance pipeline, but failed to produce proof to support that figure. And there was no information provided of how much sewer this plant will be able to treat. Mark Rutten was asked the same question, and his only reply was that the plant on the north side of the city would be an awfully expensive option, citing the cost of the wastewater system for the city of Victoria that would cost $800 million. I believe it is very unreasonable to make such a comparison. The city of Victoria is serving 320,000 customers, and the area is much larger than we have here. I've been trying to figure out where that figure of $173 million comes from. So I made I divided the cost of the facility in Victoria of $775 million divided by the number of cubic meters they're supposed to treat, which is 108,000 cubic meters per day. And it turns out that if I multiply that figure by 24,000 cubic meters a day, that is supposed to be the plant for the Comox Valley, the magic number that comes is $173 million. What a coincidence, right? Is it a way that the number that was presented to you by the consultant was determined by dividing what is happening in Victoria? The number is almost exactly the same. And the figures that I described in the table presented in the report that everybody has seen have things like the new Courtney high pressure increase, $29 million. And where is that coming from? Information was not provided. The cost of $105 million for the actual treatment plant was never provided.
So you have about a minute left,
Okay.
and we do want to provide some time for questions from the board. So I'll just give you that notification just now.
Okay, I believe that it's important to figure out why is it that they want to put a 34-inch pipeline if the designed capacity of a 34-inch pipeline is 26,900 gallons per minute, and the maximum flow in 2060 will be 8,000. Why is it that the pipe is more than 3 times the size of the maximum design? The numbers just don't match. Okay, I'm gonna have to promise a report on all these numbers in writing so everybody can actually read the numbers and see exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes, we'd certainly appreciate receiving that in writing. It's a lot of information to digest in an oral presentation, but thanks very much for making the presentation. Are there any questions from members of the Sewage Commission? Director Cole Hamilton.
Thank you very much, Chair, and I'm just going to plug in my headphones.
Thanks, Eduardo. I appreciate you spent a lot of time preparing this report for us. And one of the facts you raised that I had some concerns about was why the conveyance was being replaced in the first place. You said the pipe still had some, in your estimation, some life in it. You're probably aware that it runs along the Willamar Bluffs, and storms frequently run the danger of exposing the pipe and creating what would be something of an environmental catastrophe if that pipeline were to break and spew into the Salish Sea. I'm just wondering, given that's I think a fairly well-established reality, why you feel that the need to replace the conveyance is why you don't see a need to replace that conveyance.
I'm actually being pretty obvious that I don't believe that it needs to be replaced with another pipe. The point I'm trying to make is that it's worth replacing the whole system with a new plant, not putting another pipe in. Not replace what's there, just use the life that is left to allow the construction of a new plant on the north side of Courtney, which in reality, all the flow that goes into that pipeline comes from the residents of Courtney only, which is 69, 60, right now today is 6,500 cubic meters per day. To replace the pipeline with a new water treatment facility. That's my point. That's what I want to happen.
Thanks for that response. Are there any further questions from directors? Seeing none, do we have any comment from staff? Okay, you will know that we don't make any decisions based on delegations on the day of the presentation. I would certainly, again, invite you to send your submission in writing so that Sewage Commission directors have the opportunity to digest it more fully. With that, I'll thank you very much for your presentation today.
Thank you for listening.
And we will move on. We have, I believe, no management reports, no new business, no addendum, no media, any media questions? None of those. So I'll take a motion to terminate the meeting.
Move.
Second.
Moved by Director Grant, seconded by Cole Hamilton. Any objection? That is carried and the meeting is terminated. Thanks very much to staff and directors.